In this video, I'm going to show you how you can set up Tricentis Tosca 16.0 and run it on a AWS EC2 Windows Server instance. Now, there are very simple steps to do this. First, we need to set up a EC2 Windows Server on AWS, and then we need to download the Tricentis Tosca latest version and then install it on that Windows server. And then simply we need to connect to our cloud license server for Tosca and start running Tosca Commander on a Windows EC2 server. So let's get started. The first step is to create a Windows EC2 server on AWS. Now to do that, you need to have an account on AWS. I would be using a free tier account, which means I have got some limited bandwidth and time on which I can run a free Windows EC2 server. But you can have your own choice of servers and your own configuration. You don't need to follow the configuration which I am going to currently run on. So let's get started. I'm already logged in with my AWS EC2 account, and you can either go to services and search for EC2, which is the virtual servers in the cloud. So click on that and that should take you to the EC2 dashboard. Now it should show you all the instances which are currently running on your EC2. If not, it will show 0 instances are running. So I need to run a Windows instance on this EC2. So I'm going to click on launch instance. And here I need to fill some details before I can start running a Windows EC2 server. So let's get started with the name. So I'm going to name it Tosca Web Server. And then I need to select a application or a Amazon machine image, which is also known as AMI. Now, as you can see, there are lots of different images here. There is Mac OS, there is Linux, Ubuntu, and others, right? But we need a Windows server, and hence I would select a Windows image. Now, by default, it will select me a free tier eligible base image, which is the Windows Server 2022. That's exactly what I need. If you want to have a more powerful or a different image which you want to select, then you are free to select any of the images. But by default, it will select you the best possible image. Okay, coming down, coming to instance type, right? Now, again, my instance is a free tier eligible instance, right? But if you want to select a different instance type, I would recommend you to go for a higher memory instance, which means either go for a T2 large, which is 8 gigabytes memory, or even more. But if you want to run Tosca continuously on this server, I would recommend to go with the T2 large, which has got a 8 GB memory, and that should be enough to run Tosca on this Windows server. But for me, for this particular video, I would stick to the T2 Micro, which has got 1 GB memory. It's not enough, but for my purpose, it is fine. Now coming to key pair, if you have a key pair already created, you can go ahead and select that I have already one. But for this particular video, I would create a new key pair. So let's name it Tosca Server. Okay. And the private key file format should be .pem. I would tell you why we require .pem. It would be required while we try to get the password for the Windows server. But for now, just keep it .pem. Okay. And create the key pair. It should download it automatically. Now coming to network settings. Okay. Either I can create a new security group or select existing security group. Let's create a new one so that we are well aware of what is required. So we require the RDP traffic. Let's keep it anywhere. You can always change it to my IP so that it always allows only through your IP. the RDP connection. You need either HTTP or HTTPS, but I generally keep it both. Okay. So we need these three settings or these three security groups at least in your network settings. Without this, your Tosca connection or your web server will not work. Okay. Now coming to storage, there is 30 gigabytes, which is enough to run a Tosca Commander on the web server. So I would leave it. And then there are advanced details which we don't need to care about. These are if you want to have some specific behavior for your web server, but these are not something which we need to change. So these are the mandatory settings and the important ones which I have to change. Okay. Once this is done, I can also decide on number of instances. For now, it is one. But if you want to run Tosca server and Tosca Commander on different instances, you can even launch two instances. Okay. So click on launch instance, and that should quickly create your instance and start running it. Go to view all instances to view your instance. That should change the instance state in a few minutes and start running it. Okay. Once it starts running, then we can even connect to that instance. Okay, so let's wait until this instance starts running, and we would require the .pem later on while we connect to this instance. Okay, as you can see, the instance state has now changed to running. So let's select this instance. You can see all the details here for this instance and the security which we have created, the networking, the storage, monitoring, tags, everything would be available here. Okay, including the IP address, which should be required to connect to your server, but probably it's not required. There is a direct way to connect to it. Okay, so now select that instance and click on connect. Now in connect to instance, there are three options, but we will stick to the RDP client, which is the more simpler one, and probably it is the most easiest one. Now ignore this message if you're getting this. It doesn't matter. The connection type, it will be automatically selected connect using RDP client. You need to click on download remote desktop file. That's the RDP file through which we'll be connecting. So click on that to download it. And we have the DNS username administrator, right? The only thing which we require is the password. Okay. Now I can click on this to start the RDP connection, but I still require the password, as you can see, right? Now there is a way to get password here. If you can see get password, click on that, and that should open a get Windows password um, section. And here you have got the instance ID, and here we need to upload the private key file which we just created while generating our key pair, right? And that's the .pem format. So click on upload and select the .pem file which we created earlier. Click on open, and that should upload that PM file here. And then we just need to click on decrypt password. So once you do that, you should get the password here. I will just copy it, and then let's go back to our RDP here and we'll paste it here. We should just go through these dialogues to get the connection working. And now we are connecting to our AWS EC2 Windows server. So once the connection is established, you will see the Windows server starting. It will ask you to select a network which will connect to your local network. So click on yes on that network dialog box. It will change the theme by running something in the background. So you will get this theme for your Windows server. And that completes our first step. So we have successfully set up a Windows EC2 server on AWS, and it is in running condition, and we have also connected to that server. So the next step is to get our Tosca version installed on this particular Windows server, right? So for that, we need to go to the Tricentis portal. So let's open Microsoft Edge, and from there I will go to the Tricentis portal. So just go through this setup of which shows up every time you set up Windows Edge for the first time. So just go through that whole setup, and then you should get started with the Edge browser. Once that is done, let's open up the Tricentis support portal where we would get our Tosca installer. So I would search for Tricentis support. That should take me to the Tricentis support website, and we need to log in into the support website. Now, before we move forward, obviously you need to have a valid Tricentis support account where you have created that account and you have already requested a license. Now, if you don't know how to do that, watch the other video where I've shown you how you can request a training license for where I've shown you how you can request a Tosca training license. So click on login, and here just use the same email and password which you have created an account with. So I will use my email and my password, and just click on login. That should take you inside the Tricentis support website. Now, once you log in, we need to go to the Tricentis license request page, right? So the URL is this. It is available in the video description if you require it, but this we have already done it, so you should know this. So just copy paste this URL and click on it so that we land on this particular page where we have already a cloud training license which is deployed, and there is also a link to download Tricentis Tosca. So click on that, and here we'll try to find our Tosca version, which is 16.0, the latest, right? Now here in the downloads page, you will see there are lots of different products from Tricentis, but we are only interested in Tricentis Tosca. So click on that. Here you will find lots of different Tosca versions, but we need to find the Tosca 16.0 LTS, right? Don't get confused with the different products. There are different products related to 16.0, but look for Tosca in the product, and title should be Tricentis Tosca 16.0 LTS, and the version should be 16.0. So this is the Tosca installer which we need to download. Okay, so click on that, and that should start your download for your Tosca version. Now it's around 1.5 GB, so it will take a few minutes to download. And once it's downloaded, then we'll start off with installing this Tosca version on this Windows server. So now that the download is complete, let's go ahead and go to this folder. It is in the zip format, so we need to first extract this folder. So let's do that so that we get the actual installer. Once that's completed, you will get two files. One is the application and one is the SHA-256 file. But you need to click on this application, which is the actual installer. So double click on it to start the Tosca installer. Once the installer has started, you will get this kind of a window with a welcome message. You need to click on I agree to license terms and continue. You just need to follow everything which is displayed on this window and you should be installed pretty easy this Tosca setup. Okay. So all these prerequisites, if these are not installed, Tricentis setup would install it for you. So just click on next, choose the setup that best suits your needs. We can set up this machine as an execution agent. We can set up a custom installation, but we need to install Tosca Commander. So we'll keep it as it is. Click on next. All these are the default folders for Tosca, so I don't need to change them. Click on next. This is Tosca Diagnostics. If you want, you can keep it or remove it. This is the update service. If you want to enable the update service by default, or else just click on next. Something related to Tosca data integrity. I don't need to install it. This is related to Vision AI engine. I will leave it as it is. It will install the Vision AI engine for me. And then it will show you a summary of what it is going to install. Okay, so you can still change features which you don't need and remove them. But I would say just stick to the default and go through the installation. So now it will install all the different setups. It may take some time depending on your machine configuration. Once the installation is completed, you should get a summary with all the text on all the different components. You can even look at the logs if something goes wrong. Now, just to finish the installation, we need to click on finish, and that should complete our next steps to download and install Tosca 16.0 on your Windows server. Now, if you go to a Windows menu, you should see a Tricentis folder with all the different Tricentis components which are installed on this Windows machine or server. Out of this, the most interesting is the Tosca Commander, or the most important, I would say. So click on that to launch our Tosca Commander now. And we are only left with the final step. Uh, it is to connect to our cloud training license server so that our Tosca Commander can use that license and we can launch our Tosca Commander on this Windows server. Now, since we have not activated any license, it will take you to this license page where you need to enter a username and password to connect to your cloud training license. Now, if you are on different license model, don't worry. Just go back to manage and then also go to activate and click on connect. That should give you different options like a self-hosted license server if you want to install it directly on the server or use licenses from my local machine, right? But I'm going to connect to the cloud hosted license server because that's what I've used. Okay, so I need to use the same username and password which I've created an account on the Tricentis support portal, right? So let's go ahead and use that same username and password which we used earlier and click on OK. Okay, bang. That worked like a charm, right? So now we have connected to the license server and we can start using Commander, Tosca Commander right away. Okay. It will take you to this page once it has connected to the license server. Here you can create your own project. So let's go ahead and do that. Uh, so here you can create your new workspace. As you know, there are different types of workspaces. If we have also got a database, we can create a multi-user workspace. For now, I will stick to the single user workspace. I will leave the location as it is and I will select the name for the new workspace. I would also use the standard workspace template, which is the standard TSU, and click on OK. So it will start creating my new single user workspace. And now it will start launching the project or or which we have created now. So it will open all the different modules or the different sections which are present in Tosca Commander. And you can see test cases, modules, requirements, test case design, execution, etc. Right? So everything is present here. Um, the only last thing which is also important. So while scanning any module, so right now if I'm going to scan a particular module, so let me open Chrome for that matter. Now, by default, you will not get Google Chrome in your Windows Server when you launch a new AWS EC2. But in the background, I did download and install Google Chrome. So let's just open google.com and try to scan some module with our new Tosca. So let's go back to Tosca and create a new module and try to scan this page. So right click and create a new folder here. Let's call it Google for now. And now let's right click on this and try to scan this application. And now you should notice that you're not able to scan that particular application because it's open in Chrome, and every browser requires an extension before you can scan your objects in that browser using Tosca. So you need to install a Tosca extension, and that is the last thing which I wanted to show you. So once it starts this Xscan, it is going to realize that that extension is not installed on this browser. So let's try and select Google Chrome here and try to scan. And as you can see now, it is throwing a message saying browser extension not installed or outdated, right? So in order to scan, you need to install this extension from Tosca, and let's click on yes. So it will directly take us to that page where we can install this extension. And then here we just need to add this extension to our Chrome browser. So click on add to Chrome, and it should start adding this extension. Once that's done, then our Tosca installation would be complete and we would be able to scan a module using Chrome browser. So that's completed. We can close that window and go back to our Google module, and let's try to scan again. This time around, it should work. Okay, so the scan is already running in the background. So let's wait. Okay, so now you can see that message did not appear, and now I can go to the advanced tab and I can just maybe just add some controls. Okay, so this item is not unique. I can even change it by image or by index to make it unique. Let's go with index, and that makes it unique. Okay, so that's all I wanted to do here. I will click on save quickly to save this module. Okay, and then close this window. So now our scanning is also working. We can scan modules with the Chrome browser. So that completes the whole setup. Okay, so the whole setup consisted of basically three steps. The first step was to create a Windows EC2 server on AWS, and then we downloaded and installed the Tosca 16.0 version on this Windows EC2 server. We connected to the cloud license using our training license, which we deployed already. And then we finally install the extension on the Chrome browser and we scan few modules just to make sure that everything is working as expected. So if you have noticed, it's a little slow because I am running on a very low configuration Windows server, but ideally you should be running Tosca on at least 8 gigabit memory, right? So just choose a higher version of EC2 when you are creating a new Windows server if you want to run this for a very long time, right? The only disadvantage is it would incur some cost or charges on your AWS account, but still, it's a very good option if you don't have that configuration in your local machine, or you don't want to run Tosca on your local machine. You want to run it on a virtual server. So this way, you can run all your automation on a virtual server, and you can even start it from a Mac OS, right? You cannot install Tosca on a Mac machine, but you can install it on a Windows EC2 server and virtually start it from the Mac OS, right? So you can still run Tosca from a Mac OS or any other OS using this way, where you are using AWS EC2 Windows server. So that's all for this video. This is how you can download and set up your Tosca on a AWS EC2 server and start running Tosca Commander and start working on your Tosca automation.